the history of human thought, there is a moment when humanity took a bold step, moving away from myths and legends and turning instead to reason and observation. This step marks the beginning of philosophy and science. At the center of this transformation stands a man, Thales of Miletus. Philosopher, mathematician, astronomer, engineer, Thales is remembered as the first thinker to explain the universe without appealing to the gods. But who was he? What did he discover? And why is he considered the father of philosophy and the very first scientist? Thales was born around 624 BC in Miletus, a Greek city on the western coast of Anatolia in today's Turkey. Miletus was a wealthy port city, famous for trade, culture, and innovation. It connected Greece with Egypt, Babylon, and the wider Mediterranean world. This cultural richness gave Thales access to diverse knowledge. He is believed to have traveled to Egypt, where he studied geometry, and to Babylon, where he learned about astronomy and mathematics. In a time when most explanations of nature were based on mythology, Thales began asking a different kind of question. What is the true nature of reality? His most famous claim is that everything is made of water. To us today, this might sound simplistic, but in his time, it was revolutionary. Instead of saying the gods created everything, Thales suggested that there is a single natural principle behind all existence. He noticed that water is essential for life, that it can change into different states, and that it is present everywhere in nature. This was the first recorded attempt to explain the universe through natural causes instead of myths. By making this bold claim, Thales laid the foundation for philosophy itself, the search for rational explanations. Thales was not only a philosopher, he was also one of the first true scientists. In mathematics, he introduced important principles of geometry. His most famous result, known as Thales' theorem, states that a triangle inscribed in a semicircle is always a right triangle. He also used geometry in practice. For example, he measured the height of the pyramids in Egypt by comparing their shadows with his own. In astronomy, Thales studied the heavens and tried to understand celestial movements. He predicted a solar eclipse in 585 BC, one of the earliest recorded scientific predictions in history. He also taught that the stars and the universe could be understood through study and calculation, not divine will. There are also stories of his skills in engineering and innovation. One story tells that he diverted the flow of a river so that an army could cross it safely. Another tells how he once predicted a good olive harvest and bought all the olive presses in advance, showing that philosophers could be practical and even wealthy if they wished. Thales' greatest contribution was the shift from myth to reason. He showed that the world could be explained by observation, logic, and mathematics. Later philosophers, like Anaximander and Anaximenes, built upon his ideas, suggesting new principles for the universe. Even Plato and Aristotle recognized him as the first philosopher. In a way, every scientist and philosopher who came after him is walking on the path that Thales opened. Thales of Miletus was more than just a philosopher from ancient Greece. He was the first to ask, what is the world made of? He was the first to predict natural events, to use mathematics to measure the unseen, and to turn philosophy into a search for truth through reason. From the prediction of an eclipse to the measurement of a pyramid, from the idea of water as the origin of all things to the very birth of science itself, Thales gave humanity a new way of thinking. That is why we remember him not only as the father of philosophy, but as one of the very first scientists in history. Thales showed humanity a new way of thinking, and that path still guides us.